Hi there. This is Erin Nicole, and you're listening to the Move Happy Movement podcast. On this show, I interview people from all walks of life, from all around the world. Sometimes I do sermons from the divine when the whispers of me. Sometimes I share music with you to help empower you to find happiness from within. You might hear some traffic noise, and in a bit you might hear some nature sounds, animals, creatures, people talking, whatnot. Because I'm walking out in nature, and first got to get through the traffic parking lot, etc. Today's actually one of my days off from my day job, and got asked to get called in to work. So I was like, all right, cool, yeah, I'll do it. Got to meet some so I'm semi-earthing. Just kind of enjoying the cooling down a little bit. Anyways, side note, on my way here, I'm scared of the topic. I don't think I've had this topic before. It's so funny. I've got over 500 episodes so far, and I don't think we've ever repeated a title unless it was part one, etc. That is just super neat. That's what that is. Holy Spirit, supernatural power. Out having a hard time with that. Maybe you got a friend that could relate to any of those things that I just listed. I'm not sure how to talk to them. This show my hope for you, my expectation is that you've got some practical skills and strategies that we can so that you can take action in your life or help a friend. In other words, so I got through playing these things. The first thing that came to mind was an old, I don't know if it was a hymn or like a church song, but I remember learning it, and I want to say it was quote unquote big church. And I remember I was little first heard the song, and maybe you know it, maybe you don't, but it was like, the joy of the Lord is my strength, the joy of the Lord is my strength, the joy of the Lord is my strength, the joy of the Lord is my strength. So that was the first thing that came to mind. And when I say we do some musical episodes, sometimes it just happens. This is a free flowing show, and whatever the Holy Spirit allows. The intention is to help you and help you to be as authentic as possible, but being an example of authenticity as well. So maybe you know that song, maybe you don't. Maybe it brought you some joy, but it does come from the scriptures. The joy of the Lord is my strength. And it's kind of written throughout in a variety of ways. I want to say King David, before he became king and after he became king in the Old Testament, he wrote a majority of the book of Psalms And I want to say that the joy of the Lord is my strength is from one of the songs. But don't still learning my Bible verses. There's a bit of an ambulance while there's driving gorgeous. So one of the first things that I recommend in regards to allowing the Lord or whatever your deity is that you believe in worship to be your strength, to be your joy, and to be your strength in that joy is to have a regular fitness routine. Doing something that brings you joy. Because movement could bring joy, but if you don't like the exercises, don't like the way you're moving, or you feel uncomfortable, for example, I had a friend that hated dancing, was not coordinated at all, really struggled rhythmically, and just didn't get it, and it was kind of danger zone in the dance class for this friend. And so they did not receive joy when they were dancing. They received panic, stress, uncomfortableness. So you have to find something that works for you. There's thousands of different ways to move your body. In general, it will make you feel better to move unless you have that layer of self-consciousness, and whatever it is that you're doing makes you feel uncomfortable. I, for the longest time, I loved to run, but my first, I guess, like going into young adulthood, I was maybe around 13, 14, something like that, and I started running around my neighborhood. I grew up in the hood, and a car full of, I would say, older teens to early 20s boys blasting hardcore rap music were slowly following me in their car, and that scared me. And then they were like hooting and hollering and catcalling and all that, and I was ignoring them like my mother taught me to do, and most people taught me to do growing up. Just ignore the boys and their maturities and whatnot. And they didn't leave me alone. In fact, they got pissed off that I was ignoring them. They pulled in front of me, slamming on the brakes, forcing me to either run into their car or cross the street. So I ran across the street. And then after that moment, I never ran after school ever again. I would always run in the mornings when they were all asleep, because that took away my joy of running by being feeling unsafe in my neighborhood. So find something to do to move your body that brings you joy, and that will tie in to helping you feel that joy of the Lord is yours throughout your body physically. And you can actually have time in worship or meditation while you're exercising. And that was partly the reason why I wanted to wear my flippy floppers, so I could be practicing a semi-form of earthing, not being so focused on the calories in my dinner, but I really wanted to kind of get mindful of the forest. I wanted to feel the crunching of the leaves, beneath my feet. And sure, you can feel that with shoes on, but I wanted to feel a little bit more, and I'm not 100% trusting in this area to be completely barefoot. So there you go. That's kind of what I'm doing first. that are going wrong. Maybe you're going to therapy and they're talking about, well, what are the struggles that you want to overcome, right? And then you're thinking about your struggles. Well, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. Keep going to therapy if that's working for you. But on this show, in my methodology, we focus on what you were designed to do. How are you able to serve others? And how can you be so grateful for what you have been given, what you have received, the protection that has been provided for you, the gifts that you have been given, and how you were designed. Because in my belief system, in the way I educate and execute my coaching, God makes no mistakes on his children. So the joy of the Lord is my strength, because when I lean into my identity, when I spend time with him in the Word, when I spend time with him in the woods, in exercise, meditation, in practicing my music, whatever it is that brings you joy. Maybe it's building some magnificent building, or fixing up that old, 49 Chevy, whatever it is for you that makes you feel close to how you were designed, losing track of time, enjoying the moment. That's going to bring you closer to that joy of the Lord is my strength, if that makes sense, especially in times of difficulty. Sometimes we try to punish ourselves when we're going through a difficult time, or if we've made a mistake. So then we will remove fun from our lives. Not everybody does that, but I would say type A personalities that are hard workers, go-getters like me, you might have to remind yourself to put things in your schedule that bring you joy, because you think, oh, I messed up, so now I need to remove this, this, and this. I can't have fun in my life right now. I need to work hard to fix what I messed up on. Not necessarily. Sure, if you screwed up real bad with your partner and forgot your anniversary or something, go fix that situation. But it doesn't mean that you can't, work on your music creation, or work on that fun project that really excites you and challenges your mind. For me, the verse, the joy of the Lord is my strength, is really leaning in to that time with him. And I've never felt like regretful when I've spent time in the Word, when I've spent time meditating, praying. Sure, there's tears sometimes. You feel that sadness kind of release from you, because you're being your authentic self with your Creator, and your pain, you're able to kind of release that. But you don't stay in that emotional state. You release it, and if you're in like a prayerful state, you say, even though I'm feeling, this amount of sadness, or I'm angry that I didn't get the promotion, Father, but I trust you are closing the store right now, because I believe you have something even greater in store for my future. And when you speak words like that aloud, you're speaking faith and hope into your life. And I believe he rewards us the more faithful we are. And then that can bring just that sense of joy of the unknown, because now the unknown is not a bad thing, but it's okay. There's this opportunity and it didn't work out for me, so that means you've got something better in store in the future. And you just leave it like that. I'm going to share in a nutshell some of the things that were supposed to happen this year, in the last 4 years, I should say. And some did, and some didn't. And those that didn't, so what? Move on. You gotta keep it moving. Resilient minds don't avoid bad things in their lives. Resilient minds receive the information, okay, and then keep it moving. You allow things to bounce off of you. So, let's see, 4 years, next month, 4 years ago, I found out I was in the nominations for Global Mental Ambassadorship, and things were going great for my business that the Holy Spirit has inspired, Move Happy. We got featured on Good Morning America through Team Dave Vaynerchuk. Our branding, our question that he allowed some of his community members to ask, and special questions, got whatever random selection process they had, got featured on TV. I wrote a song for the International Mental Health Day. I wrote half of the song, and then I posted the song online and said, is anyone interested in helping me finish this song? And a person from the music industry that supposedly had written multiple Grammy award-winning songs with artists but wasn't allowed to have her name on the songs reached out and offered to help me finish the song. And we did finish it together. And then, after we were done, I released it publicly. It's called You Are Loved. And I wasn't planning on selling it. I wanted to spread love in the world during the shutdown when there were no concerts, there were no movies, there were nothing going on, to bring people together. That's what I do. And this person texted me a few days after the song was released, and she said, by the way, my mom is personal friends with the lead singer of Earth, Wind & Fire, and he loved your song. Wow. That was pretty freaking cool. Same person appeared in an event. I invited this person and her husband to sort of audit, be a part of a private networking event that I had created out of nothing online, because she and her husband had offered to coach me in my business to get me growing revenue. And they did participate, and it was about a 2-hour event online. And then we talked about the event a few days later. She texted me within an hour or two and said, oh my gosh, I have been waiting 30 years for my husband to invite me on a business trip. And after 90 minutes with you and your experience, he got to see how I operate, and he invited me. Thank you so much for bringing him into my marriage. I was like, whoa, that's cool. Then connected with her husband and her on a call a couple days later, and they told me they loved the event that I made. And she said, my husband is going to speak to the elders of our private church group, Erin. We have access to all the money in the world. We're going to help get you funded. So I was like, wow. Things just keep getting better and better and better. And same person told me I was nominated for the Mental Health Ambassador competition. And I couldn't believe it. She said, go ahead and email me an Excel spreadsheet of all of the expenses that you think, the costs involved in your business, and future business ideas, plans, and costs involved, so they can get a ballpark of how much they need to give to help you grow your business. said, I can't make any promises, but in years past, they've paid for the rent for 5 years so that members of our church group can grow their business stress-free. I was like, wow, things are going good. But I want you to pay attention to the key words that I had said earlier. All the money in the world. If you know anything about biblical history, I believe in the book of Genesis, it talks about the fall of the angels, a third of the angels, led by Lucifer. Lucifer was the most beautiful angel in heaven and was said to actually be the worship leader, if you will, for all the angels. Was the most beautiful angel of all of them. Got too cocky and egotistical and said, I don't need God. Join me. We're better than him. And was banished to the earth. But was also given dominion over all of the riches of the earth. If you remember the story of when Jesus walked the earth, and he went into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights and fasted. And when he was at his weakest point, that is when the enemy tempted him. That if you would just bow down to me, all of the kingdoms on earth will be yours. And he said, do not tempt the Lord your God, etc., etc. In that moment, when I was offered help from a private church group, she had used conniving language. She had used my own church's language, talking about my husband will go to the elders. In the Bible, it speaks about the elders, in the New Testament specifically. She had stalked my content online. And similar, not exactly the same, but similar to what Jesus had experienced with Judas getting betrayed. Basically tried her best to get me to actually deny that I was a follower of Jesus Christ. And when I said whom I worship and who my family worships, she couldn't come near me. And that's when things started to go downhill for a while. And that same person that supposedly was a PhD in divinity, in church ministry, had paid to ruin my life after that. Had initially paid to end my life, and when her plans didn't work, signed a contract with the top security team, one of the top security teams that protects the presidents, called Blackwater. They're an alumni group. They were defunded a few years ago. They were started by President Clinton, I believe, and they were doing such shady things, getting paid, contracting to kill people, basically, for our government. Didn't really know too much about them, but I had connected her to their president, their board, at my private VIP event. So she had paid him to kill me initially, and he didn't like that, and he sent me to receive protections from someone that had trained him. The joy of the Lord is my strength in good times and bad times. So they're all communicating together, and at that time I'm in this safe house, and I met this this stranger. He was just a kind man that I thought was just there to help me. And he was assigned, I found out later, he was assigned as my protection. And he asked me, how many years until you're able to hire again in your business? Because one thing I forgot to tell you, Move Happy had expanded. I just hired my first set of interns. First ever hiring anybody ever. And we expanded to 3 continents. And after she and her private church group had done what they had done, I had to go into protection mode and shut everything off for a few months. And then he asked me how long until you can hire, whatever the Lord told me. And the day or night before, I was writing in my journal, and he was speaking through my hands, and he said, you're not to hire anybody for 3 years. And so that was what they told her. For 3 years, instead of us ending her life, she's more valuable to keep her alive and steal from her, because she's so gifted. So why don't you let us steal from her? Anything that you want will get to you. But the only way it's gonna work is if Erin doesn't know about it, and if she posts anything bragging about her journey, or talking about a new song, or talking about a new therapy she has created, then we get to go in her email account, go in her computer, and take it from her, and give it to you. What do you say? And she agreed. That contract ended October 17th, 2023. So for the first 3 years of this competition, I've been dealing with thieves, murderers, contract killers, the best warriors of light. And I had some incredible high moments and some incredible depressing, sad, frustrating, moments where these people were doing everything that they could because they had to. They had to follow the contract with her to steal from me. And they couldn't tell me anything about it. The man that I had met, that the president of the Blackwater alumni had introduced me to, he gave me specific instructions to go to this specific safe house in this area in Canton, Georgia. If I got there, then there would be a veteran in the lobby, and he would be wearing a veteran hat, and that's how I would know. Just a real nice guy. And so we became friends, and he was the one that protected me for a couple months. Got me housing, got me food, added me through the VA as his caretaker because I was taking him to doctor's appointments. He was an incredible human being to me. Showed me the love of the Father. Took me to church, the Bible studies. Incredible. And he trained me. He trained me up to not be bothered. Prepared me for every possible scenario that would come. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was psychological and spiritual training that he was doing. And I'm so grateful because the joy of the Lord is my strength. And I believe the team learned from me as well, although I only met one man from each political group that protects our current and former presidents. They chose to work together to keep me alive because the deep state is real, and these nasty, evil satanic, pedophile, money-grubbing, egotistical people that are just worldly. A lot of them have power in the world because they worship the enemy. They worship Lucifer, and he promised, because he has dominion over the earth until Jesus Christ comes back a second time and reigns for 1,000 years. They sold their soul, so they get a little bit of temporary power while their physical bodies are alive on this earth. They have such a finite amount of time on this earth. And they chose what they chose. The Holy Spirit wants me to say her name. Lorianne Singer no longer loves theaters. She is the woman that paid to have me killed. 6 months later, she paid, do I say his name? I've said his name before. She paid Jason Johnson, president of the Blackwater Alumni Group, founder of Project K9 Hero. She paid him 800 to 850 acres in the border of Tennessee and Georgia, valued at over $1 million, to ruin my reputation, forcing him to get it on camera, having me do an inappropriate sexual act, and I denied it. He's a married man, and she forced him to take me out on a fake date, committing adultery. She forced him to violate, if he identifies with any sort of faith system, the Christian Catholic faith system. And he lied to me about being single and potentially violated my own. But he had to do what he had to do because he signed a contract with her to kill me. And then I started talking about how both security teams from both political parties were protecting me and chose to work together to protect me. So he effed up real bad, didn't think I would be grateful and start Erin Nicole Ministries and start hosting free online concerts and have a previous Super Bowl performer and finalist from Team Christina Aguilera of The Voice and Team Blake and an actor / singer from the TV show Nashville, a professor of music, and his wife, an NFL player as a keynote speaker, former judge, C-level executive of Costco, keynote speakers. Did 11 free online concerts the following year for veterans, first responders, and their spouses because I was motivated, I was grateful. And I did that while working full-time, 12 to 14-hour days, 6 and sometimes 7 days a week, forced slavery, as a postal worker, for a majority of that time. I was motivated. I was extremely grateful to be alive. And the Father had allowed me to survive the most horrific in my life experience, where the richest people in the world had paid to have me killed, and I was protected, not by some amateur security team, but by the best security team in the world. The joy of the Lord is my strength. So I share my story not to scare you, but to encourage you. Even if you're not, some multi-billionaire, you can make a difference in the world. You can execute things that bring you joy and help others to be and feel joyful as well. There were so many veteran families, both directly active duty in the military, former veterans. I reached out to who I knew initially to invite. And then people started spreading word, sending invitations. I spoke to some, congressman or somebody out of Florida. And I looked at his page after the fact. He got my information. Someone sent him to me. And he had like 250,000 followers. I was like, holy moly. He said, however we can help you, Erin. We want to spread the word. But sadly, these people had signed this contract and they started blocking my invitations to free concerts for veterans and first responders because I was in a competition. And when you get to a national and international scale of competition, people's true attitudes their intentionality, their authenticity, their honor or lack thereof start falling out of their asses. And these people wanted to win more than they wanted to be a part of something great. And so they blocked a lot of people from being able to participate. That's okay. By the end of the year, I just happened to go to my doctor's office, and he was asking what I was working on, and I said, I'm actually working on my first music EP. I'm going to be selling it and giving it away to all of the people that helped me launch my nonprofit this year. It's for veterans and first responders. He said, how do we go to your concerts? And I said, or how do we purchase tickets to your concerts and something like that? I said, well, they're online and they're free. He said, tell the lady at the front what you're doing. I said, okay. And she says, send me an invitation to your next concert and we'll send it out to all our locations. And I was like, all your locations? She said, yeah. I looked it up online. I left their place of business and they had 650 locations nationwide, roughly 100 patients at each location. So instantly, with one email, was sent an invite to 65,000 people. I was like, whoa. The joy of the Lord is my strength. He don't play around. When you do something good, when you have a pure heart, He is faithful to move you to the front of the line. I was actually listening to a sermon last night on my way home from work, and I don't even know who was on the radio, but it was the missionary radio station, and he was talking about the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus Christ got kind of a little more famous for that speech. We're basically flipping the world upside down, and not, those that are braggadocious are the best, but it's actually those that are meek, humble. And he talked about the pure in heart, how those that are the pure in heart, I can't remember the exact language, but look it up. But basically, those that are humble, those that are meek, those that are kind to others get first dibs at righteousness, first dibs at the kingdom of heaven. When your intentions in your heart are to help others, and you have this attitude of service like the United States Air Force encourages. Many of the branches of the militaries do, but they're really known for servitude, especially in their leadership, serving their people that are trained by them. When you have this attitude of service, He is able to bless you more when you prove to Him that you're not focused on your own self-growth, but that you want to help other people. Then He will move mountains for you. He will provide you with invitations to your events, right? Towards the end of the year of our launch year of Erin Nicole Ministries 2021, I'm not going to lie, I got frustrated. I got frustrated because people kept asking me, those that were focused on numbers instead of why I was doing what I was doing. How many people showed up? What's your attendance look like? Why does it matter? I literally said that to someone. Why does it matter how many people showed up? I said, did you not hear that 65,000 were invited? Like 65,000 email invitations for free from my doctor's office because he wanted to help. Because he served in the United States Air Force for 8 years and he loved what I was doing. It wasn't about me. It was about helping to bring some entertainment and a place for like-minded people to get together and connect with one another. There's a powerful thing about, there are some limitations to online concerts, not to lie. But the powerful thing about the options of doing it online is that you can message in the group. You can also private message people and connect with people one-on-one. And that was a part of the intentions behind what I was doing. 100% I was totally guided by the Holy Spirit in that. He gives me assignments. Sometimes he'll whisper things to me. Sometimes it's when I journal. He'll tell me to do something, and he'll tell me when to execute it. And I want to say around December, might have been November of 2020, he told me I was going to start Erin Nicole Ministries. And these people tried their best to steal everything, and they knew all my future plans. He gave me a new plan, idea that I didn't share with them. And I never imagined that I would be starting a ministry, multiple ministries, like Joyce Myers. But why not? Why not? So I looked up the stats when I started designing the email invitations now to give people the why behind the what. If people understand us, I think it was Simon Sinek said, if people understand the why of what you do, especially your employees, if you are a manager or you own your own business and whatnot, you're trying to motivate your team, if they understand why you want something done, they will more than likely, if they're in alignment with your why, they will work harder because they understand why they're doing what they're doing. And if you could connect your why or your purpose with their life goals, with their purpose in life, get them motivated to buy into it, then they'll be more motivated. So when I started looking up the statistics, after the Holy Spirit had already guided me on my population, it's going to be veterans and first responders, I found out they are 10 times more likely compared to average Americans to complete the deed of suicide or contemplate. And this ministry, Move Happy, Erin Nicole Ministries, is all about helping people with depression. So I was like, how freaking cool is that? How cool is that the Father had assigned me this assignment, and I was so trusting in the Holy Spirit that I didn't even look up the science behind it before I started executing. So when I found all of the research and the articles and the blogs and whatnot, I started including those citing sources in the email that I would send out and explaining it to people that I would call and reach out to. And then people started asking, how can I help you? Want to help. I didn't have any volunteers in the beginning, it was just me. By the end of the first year, we had over 100 volunteers. That was just all that I had counted. We had over 100 volunteers in like 34 countries. Helped us spread the word. Holy smokes. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Created questionnaires because I wanted it to be still like an educational activity, event, if you will. So just simple little pre-post questionnaires. Not a lot of questions, but enough questions to see whether or not it helps people improve their mood, whether it helps people to connect with others, whether they, liked the music, wanted them to be able to, be more selective with what kinds of music was being done, and start getting it more organized as best I could with the volunteers that were available to be able to get enough attention on it that people would want to show up for the concert. I had no idea it was being cyber attacked. I had no idea people were not receiving my email invitations until people started publicly posting comments like, hey, I didn't get your email. Can you send it again? I want to come to the concert. Then I was like, wow, how many people didn't even get it? they didn't receive it, or it went to their junk mail, or whatever. So then I started sending it twice, and saying, please message me if you didn't get the email, and tried my best. I said, I can only help as many people as I can. Let me know by this day and time, because again, I was working 6 days a week, guaranteed, sometimes 7, 12 to 14 hour days in another job. But this was my fun service project. The joy of the Lord is my strength. And honestly, the focus of organizing something new with a lot of what I already was confident in: music, entertaining, connecting people. I'm really good at connecting people. I'm really good at organizing events, keeping it simple. We didn't do a lot of fancy things. Yet you couldn't get more top than a Super Bowl performer. You couldn't get more top. You couldn't get more top as far as athletics than an NFL player, right? You couldn't get more top than a cybersecurity expert that was one of the 5 original of Apple and Microsoft. You couldn't get more top than that to be a keynote speaker on that topic, right? People stepped up and said yes to help, because for whatever reason, I honestly think the Lord caused them to be good. I think they want to be a part of it. And maybe some of them knew about the contest, and maybe they didn't. I have no idea. We've got less than a month to go. Actually, a little over a month. I believe it ends October 17th, 2024, officially. I know that I've already won, because the Lord assigned it to me about 18 months before I found out in 2020. Actually, in 2018, He told me my life purpose was to help empower you to find happiness from within, and to help people in the world with depression not give up today, tomorrow, not ever. And that's all I've done, is be obedient in whatever project, whatever job, whatever venture, whatever ministry, service, volunteering, whatever. I've sacrificed a lot of time doing other things that I could goof off and do, but I've also learned to find balance and find the joy in the process, and how much am I able to do where it doesn't impact my sleep, where it doesn't impact my depression, because I was diagnosed at a young age with something, and doctors did their best to shove pills down my throat and put me in talk therapy, and nothing wrong with those things. But we had a family that was always worried about money, finances, so I went to 3 sessions. That was what was allowed through my parents' insurance, and I didn't like the medication. I didn't like how it made me more anxious and depressed. So I found other ways to cope with that. So I teach you alternative options and encourage you on both sides. There's been some seasons where I think it was in college, and then a few years after graduate school for about 6 months, where I did take medication that was prescribed from doctors. But what a lot of them won't tell you is that you're not supposed to take them longer than 6 months. Anxiety and depression medication, because it can impact your long-term memory and cause weight gain, which can increase your risk for diabetes type 2 and all kinds of other conditions that are not good for your vision, not good for your heart or your limbs or whatever. So I think that it's all good. It just depends on who you are and what your needs are in that moment in your life. I am a strong believer that the joy of the Lord is my strength, because ever since I was a little girl, I was called by Him. He has called me by name is one of the songs that second year, we launched our second set of ministries, which is called the Real Entertainment Therapy Experience. Our population that we wanted to serve and actually measure in a live experience was and is medical practitioners that serve our military and first responders. We wanted to see if we could improve the treatment of people and patients with depression through edutainment. And the morning of our second event, August 18th, 2022, the Holy Spirit gave me an entire song called You Have Called Me By Name. And it was pretty neat. Sometimes it happens like that in a moment. It was lyrics, melody, chords, the whole thing in around an hour. That connection, that spiritual connection, has been since I was a little girl. And for some seasons I was distant from him through pain and choices that I'm not proud of. But that is my truth. And like I said, I don't ever regret when I spend time with him. I encourage you, whatever your faith system is, however you choose to identify your beliefs in either an afterlife or your spiritual practice, I encourage you to believe in something greater than yourself. Because there's a lot of evil people in the world, but you get to choose to be different from them. You get to choose to bring light into the world by being your authentic self, being kind to others, and giving your best in the gifts that you have, whether it's by going to a job, starting a nonprofit, or being a part of some nonprofit service, helping in a youth program, or feeding the homeless, whatever you're called to do, being the best mom or dad you can be, that is spreading your light. And some of us have a drive to do more than the bare minimum. And I encourage you to do that as well. Some people don't have the boundaries, though, myself included, and at times where they don't know what their max is, and so then they go full on 100 until they burn out, and then they get sick, and then they have to, avoid social situations for a while, and then they do it all over again and cycle the burnout. I don't encourage you to do that. That's why I get plugged in nature and have alone time with my Savior, my Creator, regularly. I encourage you, and this is if you're taking a practical thing you can do, is get plugged in nature at least once a week. At least. If you could do more and it doesn't negatively impact you and your family obligations and work obligations and whatnot, then do more. The barking of the dog reminds me of earlier I was actually helping with work with hiring new people. We were actually at a hotel. They had to do physical screening and whatnot, and in the morning I heard a dog barking, and I was like, oh, there's dogs here. I didn't know it was a pet-friendly hotel. That is another way to bring joy if you like animals, because like I said, the joy of the Lord is my strength. you like being around dogs or cats or goats or horses or fish, whatever, and they bring you joy, you spend time with them. Right? You can actually kind of get two bangs for one buck by, if you have a pet already, going in nature with your pet, and then you get to spend time with them, get your exercise on, get in nature, do all the things, and bring a little more joy to your life. I believe it's Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I believe that for yourself as well. There were so many times where I looked back and I was like, how in the world was I able to get all of that accomplished that year? And worked full-time and moved out of safe housing / homelessness, rehabilitated on my friend's couch, get disrespected from the man who knew better, and he was paid over $1 million to do it. Luckily, I had more respect to myself than to cave in and told him no multiple times. Why did he even ask? And how did the Lord bring me through that? I can do all things through Christ strengthens me. And I didn't think about all the bad things that had happened. I had a new project coming up. I had a new song I was working on. I had a new concert I was inviting people to and organizing it and getting guest musicians to participate and getting a guest keynote speaker and having different themes for it. These were things that I focused on to help those that were struggling with either suicidal ideations, depression, etc. I believe it was the month of April of 2021 in our first year of launching the nonprofit. There was a gal that she was retired from the U.S. Air Force Thompson Blue Group, and she performed at that time when she was in it all over the world, and an incredible inventor. She owned a few patents to inventions she created and whatnot. She had agreed to be a part of the concert series, and something that I had already known about, throwing parties, organizing events, is that you have to have a plan B, C, D, E, F. And she reached out to me and said, my nephew killed himself. Just found out. So sorry. This was 30 minutes before go time for the concert. She said, I can't participate. I have to be with my family. I said, of course, I understand, no problem. Well, the other musical entertainers that evening were my mom and my aunt. And they stepped up. I reached out to them. I said, this is what has happened. They were already going to be a part of the concert. I said, I can add a few songs that I am going to perform. I don't have time to reach out to anybody else. Each group or soloist was going to perform for 30 minutes for a total of 2 hours, roughly about 25 to 30 minutes. So I said, I know you gals were performing or planning to perform for about 30 minutes. Do you think you can bump it up to like 45 minutes? They said, no problem. We'll add a few songs. It'll be great. And we'll pray for Ramona. And the show went on. We had an excellent keynote speaker. And then my mom and my aunt performed, and they hadn't performed all year because they're performing what they were used to was singing in assisted living facilities for the elderly and for disabled individuals and for retired veterans that were in their last few years of life. And all of those venues were shut down during COVID. They live in a very democratic state, and they were not allowed to visit them. And the older people were not allowed to have any visitors or leave the facilities. Complete isolation. And they were depressed about it. They didn't tell me they were, but I knew they were. They had been singing together for 30 plus years. And then to not have any performing, that's taken away a part of a person's identity. So they sang their patriotic set, and it was great. And it was neat to be able to do a concert with my mom, because I think that was the first ever time I performed with my mom, not the same songs at the same time, but in the same venue. And I got to set it up, and they agreed and showed up. It was awesome. It was so awesome. I was sad for Ramona's family member, and all of that really happened. But I also found out later on that some people had made up some stories, and so I don't know if her story was faked or not, because there was a lot of people that were hacking into accounts and messaging, pretending to be people during this competition over the last 4 years. There's been a lot of positive, exciting moments, and there's been a lot of BS moments where evil people that are going to cheat get access to a lot of money, and their character is magnified 1,000-fold. As Denise Duffield Thomas out of Australia says, money isn't evil. Money magnifies who you are. So if you're good, kind, loving, and generous, with more money, you're going to be even more generous, even more kind and loving. But if you are evil, selfish, focused on your own things, it's going to make you even more selfish, egotistical, and evil. And I was like, yep, 100%. I have seen it. I've seen it in so many people in the last 4 years. On both sides of the table. I've seen people be extremely generous and kind. And I've seen people get real nasty. And the joy of the Lord is my strength. One tenet, if you will, comes from, I believe, the Hinduism faith, is the separation of belonging or ownership of things, right? And it actually ties in to one of the 10 Commandments, which means to not covet, to not desire what is not yours. If you don't own anything, you don't claim ownership, then how could you get, jealous of someone else's stuff? If you are, happy for other people, encouraging people, like, cheering them on, right, when they, win a race or whatnot, and you're not upset that you didn't win, right, you're focused on, the good, positive aspects. It leaves zero space in your heart for jealousy or any of those things that would close you off to receiving more. And I encourage you to look more into that if that's something that you're interested in learning more about. Very cool stuff, though, I will say. Overall, the amount has been just enough to challenge me to keep going. Not too much, because I believe in the promise that the Creator of the universe gave when He said He will not give us more than we can bear. And when Jesus walked the earth, He said, those of you that are heavy laden, come to me. I will give you rest. And the group Take 6 actually made a really great song about it. If you don't know who they are, definitely look them up. They're a gospel a cappella jazz group. In the last few years, they have added some instrumentals to their stuff, but they would actually go around and teach. They would do, I forget what you call it, but like practicum trainings to jazz groups, to a cappella groups, to Christian gospel groups, all kinds. And they all have PhDs in music in some capacity. Very smart people. One of them, forget his name, is the brother to Brian McKnight, who's a pretty famous singer of the 90s. And yeah, he sang local songs with my favorite singer of all time and whatnot. Anyways, they sang this song, looking off the title of it, but it was very much related to that phrase of come to me and you're weird and I'll bring you back. So Saturday night, get back to my series. I must say I love walks like this. I completely lose track of that's a matter of the Holy Spirit. I don't remember a lot of my mouth. I know that it's good. Because if it wasn't good, then the Lord wouldn't use me. But I ask more of Him and less of me. And I'll always spread love and the whole rest. There was days, I'm not gonna lie, there were days and moments in the last 4 years in this contest where I was very much, irritated at the evil that was done. And I haven't shared everything because I don't want to put you in a state of sadness. But just enough. Just enough to share with you. You ain't if you don't have a personal relationship with him, if you're interested in that and would like to be able to communicate with him on a regular basis, you can call me. It's free. You can't earn it. Actions. You also can't buy it from anyone. You have to do a couple of things. One of those things is to let them know that you're a sinner and you made mistakes. You're asking them. You gotta mean it in your heart. So if you haven't done it and you'd like to, there's no time better than now. You have to be with your Father.
Like they will literally tell you like
Father, I ask that you would come into my heart. Forgive me of all my sins. I thank you. That you love me today. With the things I remember. You just reflect on it for the first time you ever met me. Your nice thing is to get with you. I love you so much. I want to keep all your face. Thanks, Father. Okay. That's so far out. I guess we're going to have a concert next July 2025. So the ask is that you would pencil us in. End of July 2025. Cool. Alright. Not sure where or when or any of those details, but I guess we're going to have a concert. Who wants you there? Cool. Give you time to learn. Oh, that's neat. today. And we'll see you next time.